Hello and welcome. This is Laren with Fantasy Grounds Academy. Today we're going to do part 2 of the Fantasy Grounds Unity solo encounter play. This takes place in the city of Baldur's Gate, just somewhere I picked to have the actual content to take place somewhere. My main focus is to essentially get people used to creating their own content. There are some things that come into play when doing so. In episode 1, we went over some of the tools and some of the mechanisms that I'm using to help me generate content and make it easier and also a little bit quicker. Not necessarily more efficiently, but it does seem to help a lot in workflow. So what I have now on the screen is I'm actually creating the NPCs for the solo encounter. The idea is to create enough content so that when someone wants to practice using Fantasy Grounds, or maybe run it as a one-shot for one player and a GM, or you can actually do it yourself. You can play through it. This will help you get a better handle on how to use Fantasy Grounds and not really need to gather a whole party of people and such. And this will kind of also help you practice being a GM and learning the mechanics and such. So what I'm going to be doing now is creating some more NPCs. As you can see right now, I have Arla Ravenshade. She's the main character. She is an NPC assassin, and she is also the main character in the game. So if I go over to the characters, I also have her built in a character format. So I have her in an NPC format and in a character format. Not exactly identical, but pretty close. So this is something that you can do on your own. Have the content and the patience and the time to do so. So this is just a kind of a gloss over here of what I've made so far. So like I said, I have the assassin, and then this is Arla Ravenshade. And you can see some of the things are similar, but like these stats, I'll probably adjust these to reflect the NPC stat block. But as you can see, this isn't a very good stat block. So what I'm going to do is adjust to what's here on the actual NPC. So I can just manually type these in, and that will help straighten this out. So she has an 18 dexterity, which a 12 constitution, 14 intelligence, pretty wise, and of course, very charming and beautiful. So you got those qualities. That kind of matches the stat block now. And then as far as features and stuff, the NPCs are usually not as complete as a player character, so you're not going to get exactly that. But so she has an acrobatics of +6, which matches. She has deception of +5, that matches. There's no history listed on the NPC stat block, but on the PC one, she has a +4 there. Perception, it says 3 here. That's right. Persuasion is +5, so that's not on here either. And then sleight of hand is also not on the NPC stat block, which is fine because the NPC, generally, those are the most things that you're going to be using. The other ones are kind of more role play. I'm not saying you wouldn't role play the NPC, but I don't think you need quite as much content. Just an NPC, unless it's going to be a reoccurring one, which she is. But then I have everything here for her information for the background. So I would probably take this information and copy and paste it in here. So I'm going to unlock the NPC, and I'm going to take this information here and copy and paste it into her notes so that it kind of matches. And then these personality traits, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste these in. These were actually generated by the Chat GPT AI. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this stuff over. So let's see, we got ideals, bonds. Her ideal is independence. So what I'm trying to do is make this so that people can play either, they can play both sides of this story. They can either play the watch captain, Darius Wortimer, or they can play Arla Ravenshade if they want to do. So I'm kind of making it for both sides of the play so that static, boring, and you can do this multiple times and make it more fun and interesting instead of always being relegated to the same thing over and over and over. So we're going to make some tables that go to this so that you'll be able to use those and kind of generate some different circumstances so you're not constantly having to do that. So neutral evil, that's right. Most of this stuff makes sense. Sneak attack, assassin strike, rapier, and a dagger. And I know she has a hand crossbow. That can be added here. So I want to take a look at her. So she has rapier, 3 daggers, and a hand crossbow. So that's pretty close. And I don't see on her actions. Yeah, she has assassinate, sneak, essentially what she has here. And then she has the ready action and all those for Fantasy Grounds mechanics. And she has some equipment here that's not showing on the stat block, but that's all right. So that's essentially what I wanted to check, is to make sure those are close, and they are. So this is a challenge rating of 4, and the character level here is a level 3 rogue, so that's pretty close as far as content goes. So 28 hit points here. She has 18, so I'm going to change this to, probably change both of them. So I'm going to change this bottom one. I'm going to change it to 21, and I'm going to change the stats over here to 20. Kind of balance it out. I think that's a good starting AC for like a third, second level. I might need to be a little higher, so maybe I'll go 23 and 20. Okay, so that her proficiency bonus is a 2, challenge rating 4. So I don't think that's quite right. Let me go to experience 750. And then challenge rating is probably more like, so that's something that you'll have to consider when you're building. Yeah, so their challenge rating should be like 2 or 3, not, yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so challenge rating of 3. Okay, so that's essentially how that worked. So this has already been created, so you don't have to worry too much about it. Might go back and update it a little bit more. I just imported the Night Watch, and this was generated on the Chat GPT. So what I did is I asked it to reconfig this so they have brigadine armor. Some of the stats weren't calculated right, so I had to tell it to redo that. And then, yeah, so this is a proficiency bonus of +2, challenge rating 1. And this has a multi-attack. You can make 2 attacks with its sword or 1 missile attack. And then the light crossbow, and then a background. The background says the Night Watch Guard is part of the city guard of Baldur's Gate and serves under the leadership of Darius Wortimer, the Night Watch captain. He has been trained to patrol the streets of the city, maintain order, and protect the citizens. So I transferred that over to here, which is the import tool. The reason I keep focusing on this NPC creation, because I think this is one of the main stumbling blocks that most people have when they are creating content in Fantasy Grounds. These take the longest, and if you have a good formula or a good template as to how this stuff should look in Fantasy Grounds, it really helps. Because then when you import stat blocks from NPCs from other sources like PDFs or websites, or even like different generators, can also get correct format and understand how it's supposed to look, as opposed to whatever it is that you're copying. And then you get like double spaces and extra periods and weird punctuation and non-standard ISO format text and all kinds of garbage. So there's lots of things that can go wrong importing tools. It has to be written a certain way. There's really only two real ways to do this. So this way up here for stat blocks is actually just all the abbreviations on the top as one row, and then the next row has the score followed by a parentheses with the actual bonuses for each one of these ability score adjustments. So These are two separate lines, and that's the way they're formatted. If you copy from D&D Beyond, it kind of does something similar, but it goes vertically. So that's another format that's acceptable. And it includes this proficiency bonus, which some of the older content doesn't. So if you make a copy of a older NPC that comes from an older source, you won't really get this fancy HTML write-up back here. It won't look the same. You don't get all this fancy stuff. But when you use the import tool, so unless you copy it from a newer source book, which has the official Monsters of the Multiverse, this is the formatting and such. This is the format won't be quite the same. It'll be an older format. It's still applicable. It still applies, but you won't have all this fancy summary in the back. So just kind of let you know. So that's if you copy an older NPC from another source and try to edit. That's what you'll get. Is kind of a really pared down version of this and won't have these stat blocks listed on here or anything. So what I want to show you is maybe to blow this up, to make this a lot easier to digest and look at. I'm going to actually go to Canva. I know I said in the last episode I wasn't going to go to this much, but I want you to see the formatting and the types of things that can go wrong. So this is actually the format that I was talking about before, where it has the stats going across, which is correct. And then there's a separate line as the descriptions or the abbreviations for the stat block. The other thing is how this stuff is formatted up here. If it's in a different order at all, it won't parse correctly or have problems inside of Fantasy Grounds parser. And then this bottom one is pretty much the same thing, except for this is the vertical formatting that I was speaking of that comes from the D&D Beyond website. So you have formatting that's good, like here. This is line 84 has all these. This is from the Notepad++. And then line 85 has all of the stat score adjustments. So that's what you want to look for in formatting. And there are other things I want to show you too. And then you have these vertical format, which is it's separated by a space and it's every other line. So if your stat block doesn't look like that and you have colons and other or indentations or hyphens, it's not going to parse correctly. It has to be written just like that. So if you have like strength with little colons after it, you don't want that, or a hyphen or a dash, you don't want that. It's not going to work. Or if it's indented, like you'll see a hyphen strength, hyphen dex, hyphen con, you don't want that either. So those will not parse correctly in the Fantasy Grounds import tool. The other thing you want to watch for are these actual traits, actions, those sort of things. So this trait should actually be one space down. So I'm going to hit enter and I'm going to hit shift. So it's actually I want to make that a space. So I'm going to hit enter. So that's a separate line now. So you want your traits on separate line and then list the traits. And what you want is a little period or after the trait name. So this says alert, period, and then the actual content. For actions, same thing. It just says actions up here, and then underneath that it says multi-attack, period, and then the statement. And for a weapon, same thing, longsword, period, and then it has the Fantasy Grounds parsing information after this. So that format is also important. So anytime you have an attack or a spell or anything, the actual text does make a difference or it's not going to turn out right. So this is just some things that you'll know and figure out as you go. But if it varies in any different order, like if they change any of these up in a stat block that you're copying from, these will actually not parse. So let's see what happens. So this is a Night Watch guard, but I'm going to say 2 because this is just going to be an example. And one thing I'm having trouble with is it'll parse the humanoid lawful neutral on the same line. So I don't know if I need to actually hit enter here, see if that helps or what, because it's giving me grief on importing. See what happens. Yeah, so it says, now it says medium size humanoid alignment. So that's not right. So I'll go ahead and delete that. But what happens is if that's not in the right order, or you can see that one little space there that I put in there really made a difference. Let me try this. So I'm going to go with medium humanoid. Instead, I will change this, take this out, see if that makes a difference. So medium, lawful neutral, comma, humanoid. Let's see if that fixes it. And then in parentheses, I'm going to put human, what this guard is. We'll see what happens. So I'm going to hit import again. Yeah, see, now it put lawful, neutral, human. So that's not going to fix it either. So this is what I'm talking about, how picky this thing is. It will not parse correctly. So let me try this. I'm going to copy this and delete it and put it in front. See if that helps. I've been wanting to understand what's been wrong with this, because if I leave it as it is, it's been... Okay, so on a separate line, I put humanoid, in parentheses human, and then it says medium, lawful neutral. So let's see if that helps. No, now it says size humanoid, then type human. So that's almost right. So there has to be something going on here. So I will try to fix that. So it was like that before. Put humanoid here, Control V. I don't want a separate line though. There's lawful neutral. Oops, I didn't want that. Okay. So medium, lawful neutral. So we want this to say humanoid. Medium, comma. Okay, so I just went and turned it back the way I had it before. Happens here. Yeah, see, now it's putting humanoid on the same line as alignment. So I don't know what the answer to that. I'm not sure if something's that a bug or is that something I'm wrong. But this looks like the right format, but it's not. I don't get it. So if I hit shift and enter, or if I actually put something on a different line, let me try type. That might tell it to put it in the right field. Let's see. I don't think it's gonna. Yeah, it didn't. Just put it on this line. So it's a minor thing. It's not something that is gonna break it, but it would be nice if it actually parsed correctly. So it may have something to do with the other part of this formatting, but it really does affect how it imports in the fantasy ground. So one of the things that I noticed is that anytime you have that type of problem, it's usually something stupid. Let me pull up the NPC stat block. So this is the formatting for D&D Beyond. So I'm going to copy and paste this. So this is an assassin build. It's very similar to what I made. It looks like it's formatted correctly. So I'm going to take and copy and paste this data. So this is the D&D Beyond format, which includes a separate way of listing the ability scores. So I want to go ahead and see. Let's see. So I'm going to parse this in. So I'll take this out. I want to see if this does a better job. Let's see. See, this is listed medium. Oh, the comma. Maybe that's it. We'll see. So I'm going to go ahead and import. Yep, that's exactly what it was. So the other one was missing a comma. That's all it was. Or it had an extra comma in there. It should say medium instead of media, comma. So really, that's how picky this thing is. Oh yeah, this is actually looks really good. So I'm going to use the one I got from Chat GPT and just change that one little thing and see. So medium, humanoid, any race. So this would be human. So any non-good alignment makes sense. 15 armor class with studded leather. So she has a dex bonus of +3. Leather gives you 15. And studded leather, I believe, should be 16. So that's not calculated right, but I can get. Let me think about that. Oh, no, it's right. Leather is only 1. Studded is. That's correct. And then there's hit points. There's the challenge rating of 8. Efficiency bonus of 3. 3,900 XP. There's the assassinate, evasion, sneak attack, multi-attack, short blade, long bow. And then if you go back here, this is what you want to see. This looks really good for as far as the formatting goes. So that kind of clears that up. So what I want to do is take and I'm going to delete this since I've already kind of got an idea of what to do. So I'm going to go back to my chat GPT thing and take a look at that, see where it went wrong. So it did everything right except for this part. It put this comma in here. So I'm going to ask it to rewrite this, but do not put a comma between the size and the race. So rewrite the stat block with the corrections and rules that were defined in previous conversation. You got to kind of let it know that we've already talked about this and want it to use the rules that you. So I had to go through and tell this thing to stop doing things the way it wanted to, because I'd ask it to generate a stat block and then it would turn around and just do it its own format. It would change the formatting of these ability scores. I didn't know why. So I'm going to ask it to remove that comma and do not insert a comma between the size and the what is it called. I'm going to make sure that field is. What is that called? See, unlock this. So that field is called the type. So we don't want it to do that. We don't want it to change the of type. So let's see what we can do. So I'm going to go ahead and say do not insert a comma between the size and the type. Let's see. Okay, let's see if it fixes it. So it's typing it out now. It's going to say, okay, here's the Night Watch Guard. Yep, so it took the comma out of there. But it should have left, I believe it should have left the one after. So now it's taken that away, I believe. Yeah, it took away that. I didn't tell it to do that, but it's very literal, so it will cause problems. I want to see if it ruins the parsing or not. That's a good thing to check. If that's the case, if it doesn't matter, then but if it does, then I have to tell this thing to don't do that. Don't do that no more. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and it also forgot the period after piercing damage, so there's little things that can really mess up the parsing. So I want to make sure that it understands what it is exactly that I want. All right, so I'm going to go into this Fantasy Grounds again and put this in here, but I want to make sure I got the period after each one of these statements here, because I don't know why it's leaving those out. And then I'm going to try this without the comma after humanoid and see if it breaks the parsing. So I want to copy and paste this first. Okay, now import. Yeah, see, that breaks it. So I will have to tell that thing not to tell the AI to not leave that comma out. So I'm going to put the comma in here under after humanoid. Let's see if that fixes it. Sure did. So you need the comma after medium humanoid, and then comma, and then lawful neutral. So whatever your alignment is, or it might just say any alignment. So that is basically what the problem was that I was having that format. All it was a comma. That's all it is. It took to break that thing. Everything else looks good. So even the background and stuff. So that's our Night Watch guard, who works for Darius Wortimer. And this is challenge rating 1, proficiency 2. As a multi-attack, it can make 2 melee attacks or 1 ranged attack. Has a long sword, light crossbow. And then when you come back here, it's got the background and this really fancy looking summary. So that's exactly what we want it to look like. And it looks like the calculations are right, because sometimes when it generates, it just puts whatever it wants in there. So you have to kind of define all that in the beginning of your conversation if you're going to use a tool like ChatGPT. Or you can just get it close and then change it Fantasy Grounds. So you don't have to be that picky. But I'm trying to get it to be precise. So when I copy and paste those NPCs into Fantasy Grounds, I don't have to do a whole lot of monkeying around. All right, so that's essentially the guard. Now I want to see if it will actually do Wortimer himself. He's very similar, except for he is a CR 5, and then he's obviously a little bit. He's got a magic sword, a +1 blade. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to put in the corrections that I want. So long sword, piercing damage. So I want to put the period after there. Ranged attack after that. I want to put that. And then there was that comma, which I want, that has to be in there. Then everything else looks pretty good. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to label this as template, because I want to tell this chat thing that this is the template. And then at the bottom here, I'm going to say, please generate an NPC stat block, watch captain, using the above as a template. But I'm going to say also add, or also make a challenge 5 and what is that? Proficiency of +3, because it needs to know something. See, bonus of +3. Then please calculate and adjust the stat block as necessary per the D&D 5e set. So I want to try to be precise with it. I've kind of already defined what this means, so it's not just pulling this from the archive that it has, it's also understanding what I'm writing here. So I'm going to go ahead and see if this actually works. It should work. Let's see. Please generate an NPC stat block, watch captain. I'll say watch captain Wortimer. I want his name in there. Using the above as a template. Also make a challenge 5 CR level. I'll say a CR level challenge 5 and a proficiency bonus of +3. Please calculate and adjust the stat block the generated stat block as necessary as per the D5e rule set. So earlier in this conversation, I'd already told it what to look for, and at first I asked the chat if the AI if it understood this stuff, and it did. It gave me a definition and everything. It should work in theory. Sure, here is the revised watch captain generating using the template. Okay, so far it looks good. It put the comma where it belongs. It's got the armor class. I might update the armor class to chainmail, but I mean, so far it's looking good. The hit points look right. It's got perception, survival, and insight. So I might tell it to put investigation instead of survival, because he is the watch captain. So he has the alert trait. He has the multi-attack. You know, there's some things I got to change, but for the most part, it did the right thing, which is really cool. So yeah, it's kind of working. Now I just need to be more specific on the changes that I want. Yeah, so he's the leader of the Night Watch. I didn't even ask it to make this backstory, so it's kind of cool. It just took the template above and rewrote it to match the context of what's going on. That's kind of cool. That's one feature that sometimes is good and sometimes isn't. If the Chat GPT AI takes your information literally, and it will give you what you asked for, nothing more, nothing less. The other thing is it's not live, so it's not pulling anything off the current internet. So if you try to give it new stuff, it's not going to know what you're talking about. And on top of that, when you define these things, you got to be very precise. And you want to ask it if it knows what you're talking about, because if it doesn't have anything in its database from 2021 on back, it's not going to really know what to do with it. It's very, 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 very sensitive and very picky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to write the stat block again, but with the changes. So all I'm going to do is tell it to substitute. So I'm going to say, please change the longsword to a magical +1 longsword. I want to change, please switch the, or I'll just say please add in the, I'll say Wortimer is also proficient with investigation and insight. So what do I want to get rid of? Well, athletics is probably good. Yeah, so I'll say remove survival. Please remove survival. We don't need that. I mean, it's a good skill, but not for the context of this. Not like he's going to be out in the wilderness in this case. Most of this is going to take place in the city, in Baldur's Gate. So, yeah, so it even said that he's from Baldur's Gate, which is kind of cool. It kind of knows what's going on in context. So this thing is better for writing and not so much stat block creation, but it does kind of work. So please change the longsword to a magical +1 longsword. Wortimer is also proficient with investigation and insight. Please remove survival. What else do we want to ask it while we're here? Oh, the armor class. Please update. Please change. I'll say change and update the armor from Brigadine to chainmail. Got a little bit nicer armor. If it'll do that. So armor. It just sounds like a lot of work, but when you train it to what you want it to do, it really helps. So please change the longsword to magical +1 longsword. A. Mortimer is also proficient with investigation and insight. Please remove the survival. What is it? Skill. Yep. All right. So see what it does. Sure. Here's the updated version of Watch Captain Mortimer. Okay. So far that looks good. This is chainmail +3 dex. 18. That sounds about right. I'm going to ask it though if it really knows how much what does chainmail give you? Is it really only 15? Anybody know? Is chainmail AC base 15? Sounds right, but I don't know. Anybody watching the stream, if you got the answer, let me know. I'm not looking at the rules right now, so see background. Yep. So let me see if this parses. So I'm going to take this information and copy and paste it. Put it into NPC importer. I can get rid of this assassin. That was just a test. Bring up the import tool, hit Control V. One thing about this is it doesn't need this backstory in this section. So I'm going to copy and paste this and put it above. And I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to essentially take that and make a header out of this. So for background, highlight it and hit Control 2. That'll create that bold text. And then this content down here, I'm going to delete it because that will throw off the parsing tool. So there's periods after, missing a period here. Want that. And then sense is normal, language is common. So I'm just kind of going through this to kind of see if there's any problems. So medium humanoid, comma, lawful neutral. So it needs that comma in the center, nowhere else. And then for title, you just want it to say the name or the name of the creature or whatever. Don't have it say name, colon, because you don't need the name. It's going to assume the first line is the title or the name. The second line is defining the race and the alignment. The third line is the armor class, fourth, so on and so forth. So this is exactly the format that it needs to have in order to parse correctly. So if you want to, you can take something like this, copy and paste it into like this thing here, this Notepad++, and then you can use that as your template. Because I've got two different versions here. This is a Chimera, so this is the actual is this Monsters of the Multiverse format from D&D Beyond, and this upper one is a standard stat block that came from just the basic D&D 5e rule set. They both work, except for this one. It also includes the proficiency bonus, and it's laid out vertically instead of horizontally. So there are slight differences between the stat blocks. Fantasy Grounds will accept either of those as long as it's formatted correctly. So this large monstrosity, chaotic evil, that's right. Yep. So these are the same thing, but they're written in two different formats and they're laid out a little differently. But those are the only two acceptable formats. If you try to throw anything else in there, it's not going to work. Let's see what happens. So here's the Watch Captain Wortimer. He has a challenge rating of 5. He has 78 hit points. It sounds right. It sounds good. He's using a 12. I don't know why a 12, but it should probably be 10d8, but I don't know. We'll see. He's not a large creature or anything like that, so I don't. We'll see. Okay, medium humanoid, lawful neutral, very cool. Stats are in there. It's got the saving throws. It's got these skills here. It did change them out, so athletics, perception, insight, investigation, like I asked it to. Challenge rating, proficiency bonus, languages is common. The alert trait, the watch captain can make 2 melee attacks or 1 ranged attack. Melee, light crossbow with the period at the end. And then here's the back. So it looks really good. I'm pretty happy with that overall. It looks really, really good. So this is kind of what you want to see when you're doing these things in Fantasy Ground if you're going to use the import tool. You can open one up and just manually fill all that stuff out, but it just takes a lot longer. And if you copy an NPC and it has the older stat block layout, you're not going to get this fancy back thing here. The way this is laid out, you'll just get the background, a link to a picture, and maybe a table or something. But you're not going to get it looking like this without manually doing it yourself. So that's something that you want to consider if you're going to import stat blocks or copy them over from other sources. So now that we got that done, once you are done with whatever you're going to do, then you're going to move on to maybe creating all the artwork for these. So I do have pictures ready for these. I believe I already made the tokens in the first episode. So we're going to want to link those to the stat block. So I'm going to start with Arla. Right now, it's just got this letter A token, which isn't that attractive, but that's what you'll find in modules, especially third-party content. If they don't have an artist or they don't have the rights to the images, then Fantasy Grounds will just assign a letter token with the first letter of the title. And you'll either have to change the letter token or supply your own. And in some cases, they do supply it. If they have an artist in-house and they make their own tokens. What was your... Oh, I just wanted to know if his AC 15 was correct. Because it gave me a total of 18 for chainmail plus 3 dex bonus. I just wanted to verify that. So if chainmail is 15, that's fine. If it's not, then it didn't calculate that bonus correctly. It's not a big deal. I can just go in and manually change it. But I want to tell the chat GPT thing, the AI, that it didn't calculate it right. And what I'm going to do is, instead of saying you did it wrong, I'm going to say, do you know what the AC of... Yes. Yeah, letter tokens are great because they do let you... Yeah, I agree with that. There's some merit in that comment. Sure. I agree. But the only thing is, I took all the time to make these things, so or the artwork, so I definitely want to use it. But I agree with you. It doesn't necessarily need to. Let's see. So the art that I provided is in my assets, and I have a campaign folder where I put all the solo play encounters. So yeah, here's... And you don't get a dex bonus. Oh, interesting. Oh, because of the... Oh, I see. You're right. So it is wrong. So it's because it's heavier. I got it. Yep, that makes total sense. Or if anything, it's limited to +2. Yeah, I get it now. Yep. So the one for Night Watch, this is wrong. No, it's actually... That's right for Brigadine. Let me look at Wortimer here. Yeah, so it added the dex bonus in. So that's not right. Aha. See, this is... I figured there was something going on. It just didn't look right. So, thank you. So I'll just go in and I will edit that. I'm going to say... And I'm going to tell the chat thing that don't add in the dex bonus because you don't get one. And then this is going to be 16. Yep. So that's why I like to check that stuff, because sometimes it assumes or you give it the wrong information. So I guess you have to be careful with what you tell it and what you ask it. So the Brigadine probably doesn't get a dex bonus either. So that's... Can you check that? I mean, Brigadine is probably like studded leather. It gives you an AC of 14. And this one is calculating, not chainmail, but the Brigadine armor plus a dex bonus. Now, it's a lot lighter, but there might be a maximum on that too. So this says Brigadine 15 plus 1 dex. That may be wrong. So we might have to fix that one too. But at least I kind of know what's going on. So this is... Now, Arla would get a dex bonus because she's an assassin. It's light armor, and she's a rogue, so she should get that bonus. That makes sense. So leather would give her 11, plus 3 would be the 14, and then she gets a 2 from leather itself. It must be studded leather then. Yeah, see, that doesn't look right. So she has a plus 3 dex bonus. Oh, plus 4. Plus 4, plus 2. Okay. So I'm assuming that this is not just regular leather armor. It must be studded, but then that'll affect her other thing. So I might have to change this to 15. Because I know most leather armor only gives you a plus 1. So that'd be 11 plus 4. That makes sense. Okay. So that's what I worry about with using ChatGPT, is that if you don't define the rules, a lot of people forget that no heavy armor. Yeah, that's true. I did. I would classify Brigadine as studded leather. I would too. And I got rid of the bonus to it because this is a fighter, and I don't think the plus 1 bonus would really apply. It is a little bit lighter, but you do make noise. You're not going to have as much mobility in it, so I just took it out. But it's not really a very common armor. It's not like a standard thing. So yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it would hurt either way. It's kind of DM's discretion, but so this is a token that I made for Arla. So I'm going to open up her stat block and then unlock it and then drag over the token and replace the letter token. So then I have artwork also. So there's some portraits and images. So let me look at the campaign. Yeah, so here's Arla's photo. So what I would do with that is first open this up, create an image record. Yeah, I agree with the Brigadine. It's pretty close to studded. As far as weight, capacity, and all that stuff. Excuse me. So that's the art for Arla. And then it says right here that it's a portrait, but it's actually could be art. So what I'll do is in front of that title, I'm going to put handout or yep, Arla Ravenshade. And then this is just going to say NPC art because then I'll put Arla. That's basically what the players would see if you image. So I'm going to ID it so that they don't see this part of it, but they're going to see the, maybe I'll just say Arla Ravenshade. That's all they need to. I'm going to put assassin and all. Okay, so that is essentially her portrait. So what I'll do with that is link that in here under her information. So link this and that's her image. So that's essentially what you could do here with these. And also I added a thing in here for her her items that she carries. Oh, it's on the same line. Okay, so small leather pouch containing this stuff here. Change it. Try to unbold it. Okay, that looks. So she's got some things, some notes here that you don't normally see in a stat block, but it kind of gives people an idea of what, in case you want to role play it. So that could be something you would add to a flat back of this. So I want it to be kind of detailed, just so that if you're running this encounter, you're going to have a lot more options, and it's not going to be so boring. It'll be a lot more memorable. So what I would do with the next step is I need to make the watch captain as a player character. And then the night watch guys, I'm just going to leave those as NPCs. Those are the underlings. But what I might do is, to make this more interesting, is create a random generated encounter for the watch captain. So on the other tab, I'm going to make a table or a generating NPC thing encounter, so that if he is under assault or he needs help, he can summon X number of the watch guard. So what I'm going to do is go to, let's see, I want to go to in the campaign area, encounters. Let's see, so we already have the NPC created, which is helpful. That's probably the first thing you want to create too, out of this chain of create the NPCs, then the encounters, and then your random encounter. That would be a start. There's tables. Where? Okay. So what we're going to do is first I'm going to create a static encounter, which is going to have a set number of guards. And this is going to be in its own category. So I'm going to add a category by clicking on this plus button and then edit the group. Change this to Baldur's Gate solo encounters. So if this series does well, what I'll do is I'll make more of these and kind of link them together and kind of make like a solo adventure type thing for either to play through by yourself or to actually have one GM and maybe one or two players. That way you don't have to start up a whole campaign and you get the practice that you need by creating the content, and you also get to play and test it out with other friends. So it doesn't need to be a big, huge production in regards to. So I'm going to make encounter, and this is going to be the first static encounter that I'm going to build that you can place anywhere. So all it is going to be is essentially we're just going to have the guards. So here's the Night Watch guard. And I did take away, did I take away dex bonus? So what do you think? Should he have that +1 dex or not for the Brigandine? I think it could actually work, but I don't know. Brigandine is like studded leather, essentially, in weight and how it's going to be treated. It's the same AC. So what do you guys think? What's your opinion? Because I want to take the dex bonus, either leave it on there or get rid of it entirely. But it'll decrease the armor class. But they do have a 12 dex, so you know it could come into play. I mean, but you know, I want it to be balanced and fair. I don't want it to be a bunch of overpowered NPCs or players. And there's only going to be 2 of them. So regardless of what we do here, there's only going to be 2 in this encounter. So the way I figure this is you're going to run a PC. Either you're going to run the Night Watch guard, or you're going to the Night Watch captain, or you're going to run the assassin. So either way, and then depending on what happens, then you're going to have different options. But for the guards, there's probably going to be no more than 2. And if he does call on another guard, it'll just be 1 or 2. It's not going to be a big ton, a whole bunch of things. It really depends on what exactly you're needing. But I think maybe for now I'll leave this until I get here otherwise. But I think leaving that +1 dex bonus isn't going to be game breaking. But there again, I just kind of want it to be, you know, rather fair and not too overpowering. Because armor class change of just 1 can really change the encounter dynamic. So, okay, so let me go do this. So we're going to call this 12 plus dex. Okay. So Brigandine is going to be 12 plus dex. Okay, so we'll change that now. I don't want to have to go back and fix this. When you start linking stuff together, not only do you have to fix that, but you have to go all the way back and fix the first thing you. So it's going to be 12 plus dex. Got it. So 13 total. Yeah, that makes more sense. That's kind of what I was asking about. So, you know, Brigandine might not be rated properly. So 12, so it's a total of 13. That makes sense. All right, cool. So the +1 is cool, right? Good with that. All right, so good, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop this over here. That makes the start of the encounter. I'm going to change this number to 2, but see, I don't have a token for the Night Watch guards. I did have something. Let me look at my content here. Yeah, I'll make that later, but when you start linking stuff together, it can be difficult to fix it once you've gone past a certain point. So there could be a thing where you have to go back and fix it. And it kind of sucks if you go too far into creating, then you turn around and say, oh crap, and I got to fix that. So what I would probably do is make a token with this face, and this is Wortimer's face here. So I would use that roll advantage token stamp these out, and then maybe I would also keep this full picture here. This is actually a full image, and just fix it. Do something with it, because these are individual pictures. It's not one big picture. That might be something I will do before I finalize. But for the time being, to get back to Fantasy Grounds, I did promise to work more in Fantasy Grounds. So you want to change this to 2, and that will, you know, give you 2 instead of 1. For the faction here, you can change it right now to be none or friendly or neutral. So I'm going to say neutral. I want them to start off as neutrals until they're told otherwise. Wortimer, however, is going to start off as hostile. So then I'm going to hit this refresh on the CR and this experience point. So it would be 400 XP for this encounter. And then I'm just going to say Baldur's Gate Night Watch. So this is the static encounter that we're going to use for the main part of this. So all you're really trying to do is sneak past the guards. That's your objective. Now, why you're doing that is going to be a table. I think I've already made that table. So yeah, so there's the I did that yet. No, I haven't. But essentially, there's going to be 4 reasons why you might need to sneak past the guard. You're going to have that be a table, just like a story part where essentially you're just going to go past the guards and try to make it pass without getting caught or have to resort to combat. It's okay if you fight, but it will attract more guards and it will possibly bring Wortimer in sooner, because what happens is if you sneak past these 2 guards, Mortimer's going to show up anyways after 2 rounds. He's going to make his rounds to check on his guards, and if there's anything going on, he's going to be a part of the encounter. That's how I'm going to run this. So you're going to have a good opportunity to get past, but if you don't make your rolls and your skill checks, then that's going to be a problem, and you'll lose the objective, which means you have to start over. So the idea is to make it past different checkpoints and objectives throughout the city. And when you reach your goal, then you've won. And then you can replay this as being the watch captain, where you have to stop activity in each area. So this particular area is going to be tracking down a known criminal. The other ones might be, you have to put down a riot, those sort of things. So you can play this as 2 different factions, essentially the law and the non-law abiding people, but then it's all going to take place in the same area. So you're using the same assets, essentially, but you have 2 adventures, and you can combine, mix, and match them. So one encounter or one night, you might play this one and then switch over to the law-abiding one, see how it goes. That's kind of how I want to write this, so that it'll be interesting for those who run it and those who play it. And the tables kind of just add that flavor. So I'm going to have the player roll the table and see what the motive is. And then there's going to be one other table that you roll for an extra item. So for instance, you might get a pair of gauntlets or something like that. You'll get something equipment related, or maybe even a minor weapon that'll help you through that encounter. But it's only one item, and you only get to roll once on the table. Now I'm going to put in a factor where everyone gets 1 inspiration point, and they can use that inspiration point to re-roll for the item that they start with. So if they don't like the item that they got, they can re-roll once and use up their do-over, essentially, and be able to get an item. So some of the items for like the assassin, I have like these smoke bomb things. I have caltrops. There's a poisoned, I think it's poison throwing knives that just kind of makes someone go to sleep. It's not lethal, but it knocks them out essentially. There's a couple other minor things. It's nothing, but it's cool because it changes the way that it can change the way that the game plays. So having that randomness in the beginning before you start is going to make this a little bit more replayable, and it could make it worse, but it depends on what you roll. So the Night Watch static encounter is created, and now I want to create a random encounter. And the reason I'm doing this is just to cover my bases, and then this will be available or if you end up playing the player character for Watch Captain Wortimer. So he gets to summon 1 more guard or something like that in case of gets killed or he's dying essentially. So I'm going to create another section here. Baldur's Gate solo encounter. And the only reason I picked Baldur's Gate is just because I'm just more familiar with it, and I think it's a cool starting location. It could be in any city, it could be in Neverwinter, wherever you want. But I just put Baldur's Gate. I should have probably made it more generic, but I kind of wanted the lore and such, and the video game coming out and that sort of thing. Thought it would be kind of, so Baldur's Gate solo encounter. Okay, so with that, once I've done that, I'm going to create a random encounter. So this is going to be a reinforcement group. The reinforcements, we'll just say Wortimer. That's what it's for. I mean, you can use it for other, mainly for him. Okay, so Wortimer's reinforcements. So what we want to do is take the NPC and drag it to the spot. So I want to grab Night Watch Guard there. Now what we're going to do is define this. So we're going to say 1 plus the number of PCs. So that's $PC. And what this does is it will take whatever is on the party sheet, not the encounters or the combat tracker, but the party sheet. So for instance, Arla is on the party sheet. If I ask it to do this, it's going to generate an encounter based off of the number of party members that are on the sheet. So 1 plus the number of PCs. So that would be a total of 2 in this case. Hit generate, and you're going to get a counter 2. Now the beauty of this is as that grows, is you get more players. Like let's say you play with 2 or 3 players, then it's going to add that extra guard to compensate for that. Now it doesn't care about levels and party levels and that sort of thing. It just goes by the party sheet. But it does help. So you have 1 extra combatant per party member. So it's always going to have 1 more than there are party members. That's good. That kind of balances things out. I redid the FGU tokens because they are 100 by 100. I usually make them 300 by 300. I love how they made the goblins in the game. Yeah, I didn't change them to 300 by 300 because it's a scaling thing. Generally, 100 by 100 is for small to medium, and then it goes up from there. So the 200 by 200 like be for a large creature. So I follow the format, but I understand they kind of look too small or their quality's not great. But in regards to scaling the tokens, it helps having the correct sizes that it's programmed to do. But I can understand why you'd make them bigger, not only so you can see them, but the quality is up. So yeah, I get that. All right, so Wortimer's reinforcement. So what I'm going to do with that is link it to the back of the NPC. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And this is on the back. I'm just going to grab this, drag it back here. So if you're the GM and you are running this encounter, you can use this little gadget here, bring this up, generate encounter, drag and drop it onto the map. You're good. So this will help a GM if he needs to generate that on the fly. So instead of building an encounter, you already have the random thing set up. So if you're on the map and you have Watch Captain Wortimer up, you can just flip to this other tab, open this up, click generate, and then send it to the combat tracker. Just like that. Very quick. That's what you want. You want to be able to just get into it and not have to dig around. That's why it helps to do a little bit of prep sometimes. But this is covering a contingency. You might not ever even need that because you're going to start with 2 guards and then you're going to have Wortimer, which is going to probably overwhelm Arla anyways. So you're kind of covered regardless as the game master. Now for the other side of this, I might have to make some thugs, and then I'm going to have to make some commoners and a couple other NPCs, because if you play the Watch Captain, essentially you're going to be on the other side of the coin, and you're going to need encounters for that. So you're going to want to be attacked by thugs, and then of course Arla might have some thugs with her, and then of course you're going to have to contend with people, rowdy people in a tavern and all kinds of stuff. So that this can be a lot of fun if you do this right. So this is just an example though of what you can do to make your session smoother and for building content. Want to make something that's useful more useful to you than just the stat block. And add tables. I can even add a treasure table if I wanted to, like generate some loot from Captain Mortimer. But in a one shot kind of a solo thing, it's not, I don't know. Treasure is probably not a big deal, but if you're playing this with a group of people and you plan on continuing it, probably make parcels for them. But nonetheless, that's how you do that. And now I got to go and start building Mortimer. So I have a bunch of content activated. So let me go to my module. Yeah, so I have the Rob 2E coding effects, and I have some content here that's based on the main stuff in the city. I have Baldur's Gate material here, and magic items, and I have other things. But I'm going to go ahead and, just in case, I'm going to load a couple more books. So I want the Sword Coast Adventures Guide. So I want to make sure I load that, because that's kind of themed for the counters. So this is just the player stuff. And this just gives you extra background. Probably not necessary. Let's see, what else do we got? I don't think I need Monsters of the Multiverse. I'm just building a watch captain, so I don't see anything I would really need out of there. And as far as, Tortle and all that other stuff, I don't really need. I think I'm good. So I have themed equipment and supplies, supplements. I've got the main core books loaded, Player's Handbook, and then I have these Rob 2E coding effects. And on top of that, I have the extension loaded so that it'll automatically build the automation for the actions. So I won't have to do a whole lot of work. So I'm not going to really explain exactly what I'm doing, but I'll build the character, and it won't take too long, and it will be kind of matched up with this NPC. Not exactly, but kind of close. So I want to go to player. So if you're bored with character creation, you can skip out if you want. So here's characters. So you could use the character wizard, but I don't recommend it because I'm going to be using some homebrew stuff and that. They are going to update it, but I don't know when. I don't want to deal with that right now. And I'm going to go ahead and add a character sheet, a blank. And then I'm just going to put Watch Captain Mortimer. So I have it. And the reason I'm making this is sometimes you need a PC run as an NPC. So if you want to make Mortimer more formidable and have more options, you can run his character sheet instead of the NPC stat block, because it'll have more options. I'm not going to adjust his ability scores because no matter what I do, I'm going to make him match this Watch Captain stat block. So the first thing I'm going to do is the background. So after you do your ability scores, then you do your background. So I'm going to go ahead and grab backgrounds for this. So skills, background. So it has something called City Watch Adventure or Investigator, and then City Watch. So I might use. I'll do City Watch. That's going to be his background. He was a member of the Flaming Fist brigade or company or whatever, but he's retired from that. Now he's the watch captain. So I'm going to drag that over to there. So there's the watch captain. So you get athletics and insight. So that matches some of what's already had. All right, so then I'm going to get race. So he's going to be a invariant. I don't always like humans because he just goes straight across. I like the variant version. But in the case of this, I might just. So I will bring up the races. Actually, I will do the variant. He's going to be kind of keyed to a certain area. So I'll give him a real basic feat, not overkill. So here's the race as a variant. And I don't care which stat it will be. I'm going to adjust them manually. And then I need one skill. So this is, I think, where my perception is. there we go. So there's the perception. Got that, so that works. So I'm going to take a look at my skills. Yeah, athletics, perception, and insight. So we're probably going to do investigation and something else. All right, so now what I'm going to do is for the class and level, I'm going to bring up that. And then I want to go to classes here. Fighter. It's going to ask me for what sort of thing. Here, I didn't get investigation, so I will pick perception again, and then I will change the other thing manually. It's not going to offer it to me. So there's the perception, and what else do we have? Let's athletics, perception, insight, investigation. Okay, yeah. So I think I will give him. He already has those. Perception, investigation. Yeah, that's one I need is investigation. So I'll just manually pick that one, and then perception we already have. So perception and probably survival because he already has athletic. That's maybe animal hand. History. All right, so there we go. So survival, perception, intimidation. Didn't know about. There we go. So that's supposed to be investigation. Investigation, intimidation kind of would make. Are you going to create a backstory with GPT? Yeah. So what we can do is what I've done in the past is I gave it more context for his backstory. So he kind of already has a real basic one. So if you go to other, he does have. It says in his statement there you can generate it. So I'll do that now to see. So what I want to do is see here's the backstory. It says that he's the leader of the Night Watch in Baldur's Gate. He is known for his skilled leadership and tactical acumen. He has been trained to patrol the streets of the city, maintain order, and protect the citizens of Baldur's Gate. So that's a real basic one, but what I can do is I can copy this, I'll paste it, and then I'll ask it to expand. Please expand backstory. Please expand background and add in themed. Say themed. I want it to be themed. Add in themed. Let's see, personality trait. That's what D&D kind of uses. That you don't have to. Personality. So I want it to expand it. This having these capitals here is not going to affect it. So I can fix it. I have an autocorrect. See what it does. See how it behaves. Sure, here's an expanded version. So Watch Captain Wortimer is a seasoned veteran of the Night Watch in Baldur's Gate. It's well respected, well liked by the members of the unit who are fiercely loyal to him. So Mortimer's strict adherence to the law and his unwavering sense of duty has earned him the nickname the Iron Fist of the Night Watch. How cool. Among the citizens of Baldur's Gate. He is a no-nonsense leader who expects nothing but the best from his men and women, and he is not afraid to get his hands dirty to ensure that justice is served. Personality traits, and then it just lists all these personality traits. So one of his ideals is that it is his duty to duties to protect the citizens of Baldur's Gate. He will not rest until that duty is he's watch captain is a man of few words, preferring to let his actions speak for themselves. He is stoic and unyielding in the face of adversity, always keeping a cool head under pressure. He is fiercely loyal to his men and will go to great lengths to protect himself. He does a pretty good job with should read the rest in the style of token I can, but I don't really need to do that because then it'll start adding things in like names and places of Tolkien, and then it will also add in things like Undermount, or not Undermountain, but Middle Earth, and I don't want that. It's done that to me. But I think this is pretty solid. I mean, I don't have any problems with it. It's the theme. And when you say to ask it to do themed, it really does look at what you've written before and the context of the conversation, and it will actually pull in elements from it. It's actually designed to do that more than a stat block. So I could go to this backstory here and then update this. So instead of that real small one, I can have this. And what you'll notice is you'll get these double spaces, which is normal when you copy and paste from an application or the web or wherever. So I'm going to take out these extra spaces, but then I can go and highlight just these things so that it kind of what it is that you're reading makes these stand out. So I'm going to bold these. So I don't. Yeah, so it works pretty good. I mean, it's not perfect, but as a tool, it makes it a lot faster. Yeah, I've had it asked. I've tried to write in different styles. Like I tried, I know people are very verby and a lot of verbose in there, and they have lots of description. And what I found is that it kind of does that, but then it pulls in stuff I don't want. I almost prefer that it just kind of, I just would say fantasy style writing, which is generally in the third person, and that will kind of make it more conform to the type of writing style that you probably. Shift plus J is such a time saver. Yeah, it is. I do that if it was more complex and more content, but if I hit Control J, then I lose the space also that I do want. So I didn't do it. Yeah, it sure is. Okay, so the fighter level 1. Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna level him up. So he's pretty high level. I think he's like 6th or 7th level. I don't know. He's a CR challenge 5, so yeah, he's probably about 7th level. So I'm just gonna level him up. So you do that by just in the manual sense, you do that by just dragging this little link that's underneath the add item and the edit list. So I just click on that and just left click and drag. And all it does is it just adds another layer on top of whatever you're building. So that's level 2 now. Some people think you can go in and change this number here, but it doesn't do anything. You have to drag and drop, or in the character wizard, you have to use drop down. In this case, I'm just going to go through here. Now I have to pick the actual thing. I'm going to pick him a battle master that has all those. Yeah, he has combat superiority, student of war. Yeah, he's more of that than a champion. What does a champion get? They get improved and critical, remarkable athlete, additional fighting style. Maybe. What do you guys think? Should he be a battle master or a champion? He is an ex-soldier. He was also, like I said, he was part of the. He basically came in at the end of the era of the Flaming Fists. He was a part of that mercenary group, and I think they're kind of disbanded. I don't think they're really active anymore, and they're probably all old and retired. But he came from that, and he eventually became the watch captain. And he does weird, like he's a recruiter also, so he tries to motivate people. But I don't really like the way he operates because he kind of preys on poor people and people that don't have the ways to make ends meet, and he just kind of throws his guilt on them and stuff. I mean, they get a decent wage for being in the watch, and it kind of helps their lives, but at the same time, they're put in a lot of dangerous situations, and he doesn't really care about that. He just wants people in the ranks, and he just kind of he doesn't really lie to them, but he embellishes what the benefits are. Yeah, maybe champion, probably right. Because the way he's written now, he doesn't have any of those other features, so I think you're champion. It is. Anyway, so he's not, as good as he appears. So he has a dark side to him. And when I was writing the backstory, I got a whole backstory for him that's above and beyond what the outwardly thing is, but he has an obsession with Arla Ravenshade, because he knew her family served with her uncle, and he found out that she had ran away, and never really put two and two together. But he thinks that she is he knows who she is essentially. He's been after her for like a year or so, and he's always one step behind her, and he's done some really shady things to get her. But he has some kind of weird obsession with capturing her. So I'm not really going to talk about that live on the air, but he's kind of sick in the head. He's got some problems. So he is pretty up and up, but he's got a dark side. I wonder if they do parsers and classes. I don't know. Um, Classes have so many variables and things. I don't know if they could do it. But having the tables, the races, and the NPCs definitely. I don't know if they ever had one. Old in the old parsing tool, the parse 5e parser, whatever. Okay, so that is that. Now I'm gonna adjust. See, I got him up to level 7. I think that's high enough. That should be close enough to this challenge rate. See what he has for hit. See, the hit points don't match at all. I think this 10d12 thing. I think that should be an 8 or a 10. So I will fix that. Lower it. So this should be probably not 12d8, but a 10d8. And then change this here to maybe, I don't know, 63. Kind of make it a little bit more, less crazy. So this is not even close to what he is. At least it'll be closer. And I'll change this one, like that one. So maybe I'll go with 51, and I'll change this one. That way it's kind of more believable, not so out of hand. So that is that. Okay, so that's that for Mortimer. And then if I go to the actions tab, see it's already added all of the stuff that's needed for this, but he doesn't have a battle axe. Got to switch. But he does have a light cross. But he's got a +1 sword. I'll have to add that in there. I can do that now. Let's see. I'm going to go to his inventory. Now, I don't really care what he has in here, but he does have a uniform. Watch Captain uniform. Got that. I can get rid of this battle axe. Got a horn for calling people. Got manacles. Yeah, that's pretty themed. Got some rope. I don't know if you'd carry around rope, but got it. Got 10 torches. Got a water skin. Got a hammer. You know what? He doesn't need P. He could probably use it occasionally, but I don't see him carrying that around. Same thing with this shield. I don't think he carry. Well, he'd probably have one. Tinderbox, torches, uniform, water skin, manacles, crowbar, probably not. And then, of course, the battle. So I just shaved off quite a bit of his inventory. So I want to give him some bolts. He has that. He have his light crossbow. Okay, so I'm going to grab him a couple items here. So let's go for, let's see, items. Okay, so I want to do sword +1. Sword. Long sword. Helps when you spell it right. Okay, long sword +1. And go to actions tab. Yeah. So they get an improved critical if I remember. Action surge, fighting style, remarkable athlete, second win. And fighting style is going to be going to have dual. That'll be his fighting style. So that's on. Fighting style. Let's see what it. Yeah. So this is dueling. That makes sense. He gets 2 extra points. So I can add that to his traits later, but I'm not gonna. Great weapon fighting, protection, weapon fighting, defense. Defense would have been another one I would have chosen probably. And then he gets to have, I think he gets improved out. So yeah, improved critical. So he gets on a weapon attack, so that's both melee and missile attacks. He gets to critical on it. So we changed that in the actions tab up here under the weapons. So if you click on this little magnifying glass, change both of these to 19. And essentially that will give you the critical on 19 or that's how you fix it. So that will, if he rolls a 19, Fantasy Grounds will give him that. All right, so that takes care of that part of it. Not really a whole much. Other than adjust the stats, so he's gonna have a 16 strength. So this is why I didn't care because I'm updating. And a 16 dex. It's pretty cool. He's got a pretty well-rounded 14 con. He's not overpowered, at least stats. 14 wisdom, so he is wise. It kind of makes total sense for him. Yep. So that's a really good breakdown of stats. Like it's not too overpowered, but it does make sense. That is cool. Okay, initiative +3, 15. Yeah, so he's pretty well done here. Wasn't too bad. I'm gonna make his portrait later, and I'm gonna add some of these details like personality. I'll just copy and paste those over that block on C's. So I don't know, guys. What do you think? I'm gonna call it. I've been on here for about an hour and a half, so I will do another episode where I'll continue this work, and then I'll start setting up the actual encounters and such. But I got a good chunk of it done today. I'm going to do a little bit more artwork. If you guys are interested in that part of it, I will do a little show on that too. All I'm going to be doing is working with Canva and the token plus or the notepad plus, the roll advantage token stamp, and Canva. Put that stuff together. And I did a lot of that in the first episode, so if you want to go back and watch that one, you're welcome to. It's a little bit boring because I'm rambling on about this chat GPT and all the different tools I'm using, but I kind of wanted to illustrate and show people how that GG, what's that mean? Good to go? Anyhow, so I'm going to get going, and I will call it now. You guys have a great evening, enjoy your week. And can't wait to get back to getting the gaming. Been sidetracked by all the news on. Yeah, no problem, Van. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so I'm just gonna get back into the stuff, and I'm not gonna worry about all the follow